phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
The 2022 recruiting class had some top recruits in that class, such as Travis Hunter, Walter Nolan, Luther Burden, Cade Klubnik, and Harold Perkins, just to name a few. And that entire 2022 class is now going to be going into their second year of college football. Whether they're going to be true sophomores or redshirt freshmen, they're going to be going in their second year no matter what, if they got redshirted or played the entire season of their eligibility. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Year 2 2022 class players that I believe are going to make a huge leap in their game for the 2023 college football season. Also, I have made breakout videos for college football players for 2023, and I have mentioned some players from this class already, so for the sake of the video, I will not be naming any of those players I've mentioned previously in other videos, but I will be leaving those videos down in the description below for y'all to go watch and see. Before I move on, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get into it. The first player that I'm going to be talking about in today's video is running back at West Virginia, CJ Donaldson. Now, Donaldson to me was one of the more underrated players in 2022, and I believe he's one of the more underrated players heading into the 2023 season, as in the 7 games that he played in during 2022 for the Mountaineers, he was extremely good. On 87 rushing attempts, he rushed for 526 yards, averaged 6 yards a carry, while accounting for a total of 8 rushing touchdowns. He's a bigger back, but he's also a very big, athletic running back as well that can make people miss, truck people, and even jump over some as well. And when he did get injured, which was around the midpoint of the season as he played in the first 7 games for West Virginia, then suffered a pretty bad injury which would make him miss the remainder of the season, West Virginia's run game as it goes to their running backs took a huge hit, as their most dynamic runner on the ground at that point, once he became a starter, was quarterback Garrett Green. In 4 of the 7 games that Donaldson appeared in 2022 for the Mountaineers, he rushed for over 100 yards, with his most being versus Pittsburgh, in which he rushed for a total of 125 yards and 1 touchdown. The most rushing touchdowns that he had on the season in a single game was 3 versus Towson, in which he had 9 carries for 101 yards. I believe he's due for a huge season in 2023, and is definitely a name you need to keep up with in the Big 12. Moving on to the next player, I'm going to be taking a look at the defensive side of the ball, taking a look at defensive lineman now transferred to USC, Bear Alexander. Bear Alexander in high school was a top 50 player according to the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings, and he played at Georgia as a true freshman. As a true freshman at Georgia, he did see some PT time, as in 12 games played, he had 9 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 2 pass deflections. Now, this transfer to USC, it does have some people talking, maybe not for the most positive reasons. Some people are hating on his name, saying his recruitment was all NIL, which he did commit really fast and visited USC twice, but that's not the point. I do believe that Bear Alexander is going to take off in year 2. I think he's going to have a very big role with USC. Obviously, it's going to be much bigger than his role at Georgia as a true freshman on a top defense in college football and the best team in college football in that fact. But on this defense with USC, everyone knows that USC's defense in 2022, straight up, it was not that good. Mind that, it wasn't good at all, especially on run support, and especially when you saw later on the season, and in that Tulane game where Tajay Spears ran all over them for the entire game. And bringing in a player like Bear Alexander, you're bringing in a young player who can be developed, has some very good size that will help out your interior of your defensive line at 6'3", 305 pounds, who has a lot of potential, a lot of eligibility with 3 years fully of college football eligibility, and he's someone that can come in day 1 and help your defense out a lot, especially in the trenches. If you want to be a top college football team, you better have the trenches figured out on the O-line and the D-line if you truly want to compete for a national title. Flipping it back to the offensive side of the ball for this next player, I'm going to be talking about Texas A&M quarterback Conor Wegman. He was a 5-star in the class, the number 22 player in the nation, and the number 2 quarterback in the 2022 recruiting class. Conor was a backup quarterback for a decent part of the 22 season for Texas A&M, but he would eventually become a starter later on, and I would say he showed quite a bit of potential, especially in the games versus Ole Miss and Louisiana State. In his games that he played in, the 5 that he appeared in, he completed 55% of his passes, threw for 896 yards, 8 touchdowns through the air, while rushing for a total of 97 yards on the ground, averaging 3.6 yards per carry. In those 2 games I talked about versus Ole Miss and LSU, versus Ole Miss, it was really his coming out party. They lost the game, but he completed 64% of his passes while throwing for 338 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns compared to 0 interceptions, while versus LSU, he would win the game while completing 67% of his passes, 155 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Texas A&M in 2022 was arguably one of the most, if not the most, disappointing team in college football that season. A team that some saw as a top 10 team heading into the year, one that may go to the SEC title game, go to the college football playoff. You say it, someone probably predicted it in some way, shape, or form. Well, they went 5-7 and would miss a bowl game completely, coming off their best recruiting class in their school's history. But that's beside the point. Let's get back to Conor. Going into 2023, he's the starting quarterback. Everyone knows his potential. We saw the flashes in 2022. Yes, he had some games where he wasn't the best, but this 2023 team, Texas A&M, they're bringing back a good amount of their young talent that did produce in 2022, and they're going with a quarterback that is returning, that did show some potential in 2022, and I believe that Wegman is going to take that next step in his game as a quarterback for the season, and I believe he's going to show people why he's going to be the long-term starting quarterback for A&M. Staying in the SEC for this next player, it's Arkansas wide receiver Isaiah Centenia. Centenia, unlike some of the other players I've mentioned in today's video, was a redshirt during the 2022 season for the Razorbacks. He appeared in 4 games in which he recorded 2 receptions for 12 yards, averaging 6 yards a reception. In the 2022 recruiting class, Isaiah was a 4-star and one of the fastest players in that entire class, as well as one of the best players to come out of Arkansas high school prep scene in their football history of high school football. Isaiah impressed many people in the fall of 2022. Heading in the season, some thought he was going to have a role during the year, but ultimately he would end up redshirting, which means he has 4 years of eligibility remaining at Arkansas if he chooses to spend his entire career there and to take up the rest of his college football eligibility. But let's get back to the point with Isaiah in 2023. He impressed a lot of people as a big-time receiver for Arkansas in the 2023 spring offseason, and he had a really big spring game for the Razorbacks, and they're going to have a lot of competition in that receiver room for someone to show up and to be one of the lead receivers in that offense with, I would say, one of the more underrated quarterbacks and experienced quarterbacks in college while returning to Arkansas in KJ Jefferson. I believe with his route running, his speed, and his hands, I think Isaiah Centenia is going to make his name known in the SEC in 2023. I'm not saying he's going to be the best receiver in 2023 in the SEC, but I believe you're going to hear his name quite a bit as a go-to option for the Razorbacks in their offense. For the final player I'm going to be talking about in today's video, out of everyone that I've mentioned today, he garnered the most accolades during his freshman season in 2022, and that's Texas offensive lineman Kelvin Banks Jr. He appeared in and started in all 13 games during his freshman season, and was one of the best Big 12 offensive linemen in that conference. He was a second-team All-Big 12 selection by the Big 12 head coaches and the Associated Press. He was an honorable mention for Big 12 Offensive Freshman Player of the Year and was a freshman All-American. You may be wondering if he had such a huge season for the Longhorns in 2022 as a true freshman, starting and appearing in all the games that he played in, and was a freshman All-American and a second-team All-Big 12 member, how much more of a big year 2 can he really get? Well, I believe this is someone that is one of the best offensive linemen heading into 2023 when you're talking about returning offensive linemen. Not many freshmen coming into college football at the offensive line position are ones that can start every game and be as good as Kelvin Banks Jr. was. As a matter of fact, I've already said I believe he's one of the best offensive linemen returning in 2023. I believe he can be someone who can be an All-American level player and be someone who really solidifies himself in 2023 with Texas as a top offensive lineman in college football. Well guys, if you made it this far in today's video, drop something down in the comment section below. What other players do you think are going to take a big year 2 leap in their game for the 2023 college football season? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. B. Kelly out.